People who let their mom count to 0. What happened? She actually kicked me out of the car and made me walk home. It was late, 10 PM or so, and dark, but I knew where I was. I started walking down the road and then there was a follow-up countdown to get me back in the car immediately. I wouldn't get out of bed. When she got to 0, she sighed and left the room. I snickered to myself and went back to sleep. Woke up approximately 2 minutes later to a pitcher of ice water being poured from head to toe down the length of my bed. We never had a problem after that. She could just rattle a glass of ice water from down the hall and I'd have my shoes and socks on by the time she got to the door. Very effective. My mom didn't count down, she counted up. She would put her fingers up dramatically and you knew each finger was your own failure at not doing what she wanted right then and there. She would calm down if you did what she wanted before she got to the second hand. She would whoop you if she got counting to the second hand. If she went back to the original hand to count more, you get whooped and lose everything in your room. We, siblings and I, never made it to the fourth hand of counting. But once when I did almost get to the fourth hand, I straight up tried to jump out of the car, wasn't in motion as we were at a light, but still, and just run away. The panic was real. I didn't know what I had done wrong at the time and I opened the door and went for it and got caught on the seatbelt and fell out of the car and hurt myself. But it stopped her from counting, lol. I was so pissed off that I stood there until she reached 0. Then she hit me in the arm with the hairbrush, which was significantly big. It broke in two. I felt such a badass that I went on all that day showing the bruise in my arm and telling the story of how I broke the hairbrush in two. It hurt like hell, but I had a story. My mother slapped me across the face only once in my life. I was being a shitty tween and deserved it. I was so mad, I went into her makeup bag and made a pretty realistic bruise on my face that I wore for a few hours. She was horrified at what she thought she'd done. When it mysteriously vanished after washing my face, she was pissed. Silent treatment. If nothing else worked, my mom would enter a sort of apparently you know better than I do state of mind and pretty much ignore everything I do from that point onwards. Of course her goal was to give me the feeling of her giving up on me and just leaving pathetic little me be. As one might guess, this always worked in her favor. My mom stopped counting down after an incident with my older brother. He was around 4 at the time. He never let my mom get to 0, but one day he decided he would see what happened. He was playing outside the apartment in the street. My mom was yelling at him to come back, and then she started counting. He kept playing, testing her resolve. And then when she got to 0, she saw the car barreling down the street. She screamed for him to move, but he wouldn't. So she sprinted to him and pulled him out of the road right before the car got to where he was standing. That was the day she learned that when kids become defiant, counting doesn't work. Smack. Once my mom got really mad at me because I didn't want to clean my older brother's room and threw me out of the house. I spent the day with the dog and my dad snuck me some ham good times. Edit. Why did I have to clean the room? Mainly because he never cleaned it, and for some reason my mom decided to raid the room. He was at work or college, so my mom decided to take her anger out on me by trying to make me clean it. It did not work. No one here could answer honestly. Those kids didn't make it back to tell us. Honestly though, I did witness the result in a friend's house. Once his mom got to 0, she told him to get the kit. It was a set of boxing gloves for her and a helmet for him. They squared up and she went at him. He was allowed to dodge or block blows, but couldn't hit her back. When it was over, he put the kit away and came back to playing Goldeneye. Pistols only in the basement. Yes, I remember exactly what we were playing. As she reached the end of her count and her lips formed the word 0, her eyes turned cold and still. Suddenly both eyes had merged into one, and I saw a gaping black hole within. I knew I shouldn't have peered inside, but I did. Through the silent abyss I saw an ocean floor. It was dark, and I knew the surface was hidden miles above. The water was like a massive pool of ice, and I was alone. Feeling so desperate and isolated, I gazed around, hoping to find some form of life, but alas, there was none to comfort me. The sound of silence wallowed like a shadow across the sand. I didn't know when, and I didn't know where from, but the end was awaiting me somewhere deep within that abyss. I held my breath and shook my head violently, and suddenly I was back at home again. My mother was still standing there towering above me, wooden spoon in hand. I ran into my room. Never did I speak about what I saw that day, and never will I again. My father usually did the physical disciplining, but he wasn't at home at the time. Once my mom finished counting to 0, she started yelling at me and grabbed the paddle. She went on and on about how mad she was at me for making her do this, that it was really going to hurt, and even said the old "this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you." She was losing her mind, and I was absolutely terrified. Then she grabbed my arm, drew back the paddle, swung it down, and tap. She just couldn't bring herself to physically hurt me. Tears were streaming down her face, she was so upset. God help me, but I laughed. The 12-year-old little shit that I was thought it was absolutely hysterical. It was just that there was so much of a build-up, and that I knew truly believed that it was going to hurt like hell, but then tap. I genuinely felt bad laughing, but I couldn't stop. She then said something along the lines of "you're in for it now," with her eyes all bugged out. She swung again and tap. That's when I started howling. I kept laughing through the next 7 or so hits, but they gradually started getting hard enough to not be funny. I did manage to stop laughing by the time I'd assumed the next hit would actually hurt, and played it up a bit. First and last time my mom ever hit me, as far as I can remember at least. When I was really young, my older brothers, all 10 years plus older, would tell me how mum would get and use the dog lead if she was serious. I never took notice of it really. Fast forward to being 15. My living room has a large round dinner table, and my brother and mum are in the same room. Upon reaching 0, I shit you not, she goes and gets this long metallic dog lead and starts lassoing it like a veteran cowboy, then proceeds to chase me around the table. The whole time, I'm screaming to my brother to help me as his eyes paint a poor guy, but we warned you picture. In the end, I did what she wanted me to do. Don't mess with your mother, people, they're bloody tough. Totally not proud of this, but my mom never laid a finger on me again. I took .50 for a ticket to go on a ride at a small town carnival that was going on. I went home, and my mom was seeing red over those 2 quarters. She couldn't buy cigarettes apparently. As soon as I walked through the door, she told me to get to my room, and of course I mouthed off, typical teenager. She counts down to 0, stomps over to me with a belt in her hand, yanks me by my hair into the room and starts to beat the shit out of me with the belt buckle. I don't remember how it happened, but I managed to get the belt and I started hitting her with the buckle. I have never seen her face look like that in my life, horrified. I told if she ever laid a finger on me again I would kill her. I moved out of the house shortly after. We do not have a relationship to this day. I don't miss her.